We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Wait a second. When your only political view is focus on.
Sometimes a decade happens in a minute, and sometimes minutes happen in a decade.
This is the decades happening in weeks right now.
Yeah. What we're hearing from us.
It's not. I'm all in. I'm all in on nothing ever happens. This shit is done in 4 days. Israel's gonna bomb some more nuclear reactor shit. Iran's out of weapons. It's all over.
The country.
Breaking, the U.S. has completed bombing of Iran nuclear sites. Explosion at Fordo. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Would you look at the time? It's nothing ever happens o'clock. Whenever you make a correct call, you're like, this shit was obvious. Anyone could have predicted it. Have you ever considered that you're a genius and can see the future? True. Like that one Always Friday TV video. There's not really so much that. It's just so much. It's more like analyzing and understanding, obviously, like what's going on, you know? Like, is World War III possible? Sure. But you just have to, like, I feel like I said, like, none of my predictions or whatever are even that novel. I'm pretty sure other people are saying this as well. People who aren't, like, super bought into the World War III narrative. Israel can't, there's not going to be an Iran. I'll just repeat what I said 2 weeks ago. There will never be a nuclear Iran when Israel is in existence, when Israel has any ally that can do anything. Like, Israel will never tolerate a nuclear Iran, and nobody else in that region wants to tolerate a nuclear Iran. And then I think I said, the only thing to be concerned about when Israel strikes her is if they can't blow up those nuclear reactors, because if they can't blow up the nuclear reactors, then the U.S. might actually, maybe, will come in and strike, and that is what they did. The U.S. did come in and strike. And then the next thing to look out for is, did the U.S. blow up the nuclear reactors? If they didn't, then they might strike again. If they did, then we're probably done. And it seems like they did blow them up, so Iran did their little counterattack on Qatar, which I think blew up absolutely nothing. And I think then the thing to look for is, like, what are the statements that both sides are making? So I've said this before, but when Iran is saying things like, we completely destroyed that entire base, we're so good, everybody's looking at them like, wow, they're so retarded. But they're not retarded. What they're doing is they're just talking big talk. But that means that they're done. They're talking big talk so that they can try to sell that as a win, a W to their people, to maintain legitimacy as a government. But they're probably done fighting, because if they did all the things that they said they needed to do, then they'll be whatever. Oh, and then I also said the ceasefires there's always like fighting a little bit after ceasefires, as people are jockeying for position, or as people are trying to get one more hit. It's like a hit after the bell. It's like two people making a left turn on red and on a California stop. People are always fighting a little bit after ceasefires, just what they do. However, I will say another thing. Another huge concern, though, and this is why we don't like nuclear powers fighting, or it's why generally we don't like conflict like this, even if it is kind of all predictable. Just the big concern is if something fucks up. So, like, let's say, for instance, when they bombed that base in Qatar, which they gave us a warning. I think they gave a 2-hour warning because they closed the airspace and everything for that, which is good, right? It shows that they want to be, fair and balanced, or whatever. They want, like, okay, guys, look, we're playing by the rules. The scary thing is if something fucks up and then somehow, like, a missile gets through to a place it shouldn't, and then, like, 200 US soldiers die or something, now you're in, like, a major scary world, because now the US has to step up and do something potentially big and bad. Yeah, and that's a spooky, and now everybody's like, oh shit. So that's why you generally don't want to have people blowing each other up in general, because bad stuff can happen. You typically don't want people to blow each other up because shit can get unhinged. What's your opinion that the Iran bombings were illegal military actions?
Here's a question.
Who the cares? Nobody gives a any of this anymore. So I don't know. The analysis is boring to me. International law in the Middle East is boring to me. What a waste of time reading about any of that. And then U.S. law regarding basically anything, actually. This one is also boring. What a waste of time. People like Jen should be like idiots in chat to waste your time studying law when none of it actually matters, apparently, in the U.S. anymore. So I will say, okay, not to be a big simp for the military. Okay, I don't know if it's too soon or if I'm allowed to say this yet. That B-2 bombing run was really cool. What was it? I don't know how much I read on stream or off stream. I was reading a few articles off stream. This is like a 36-hour mission that they flew straight with air support, refuel on the way there. Supposedly the B-2s that were moved around in Guam were just like a bait, I guess, or I don't know if that was confirmed or not, or they were just like moving around I don't know, to make people think whatever. But the B-2 bombing mission was like, I think it was like 6 B-2 bombers in a row, like dropping bunker buster after bunker buster after bunker buster after bunker buster to like blow shit up. And then they were out, and it was just a super crazy effective. It was just, yeah. When you compare this to like what Russia can do, where you're watching their MiG-69 shooting each other down, and then you have, as retarded as our president is, like the president of the United States making an announcement like, hey guys, just so you know, yeah, huge bombing run. We're already home, basically. Halfway home. The B-2 bombers are out. Nobody even knew what was going on. It was pretty sick. Pretty sick, but it's in a continuous series of bombers because they were worried Trump was fucking it up on Truth Social. Okay. Would you say Republicans are still in lockstep with Trump? I know there were updated marching orders from the No New Wars meme, but I don't know how much that impacts the average voter. Who knows? I think that they will, my guess is that the Republican Party will be in lockstep with Trump until midterms. And then once midterms are done, if they think that Trump's not going to run for a third term, then at that point you might start to see people switch off. But right now, Trump is still, I think, electorally popular enough to control the Republican Party, right? The, fuck, who was it? Oh, I don't remember the names. I need to keep looking them up on Ballotpedia. Some Republican congressman made statements about how bad the attacking Iran was on Twitter, and then Trump started going off on him to do the bully pulpit shit, because Trump loves attacking people that aren't loyal to him, like any good dictator would. Was it? It might have been Massey, yeah. Oh, wow, is he trying to, now he's trying to get this guy kicked out of office? President Trump's political operation has launched an aggressive effort to unseat Kentucky Representative Thomas Massey. Its first such effort to defeat a sitting Republican incumbent. By going after Massey, Trump's team is looking to put wayward Republicans on notice. This is so unhinged. Anybody that is against Trump, he tries to destroy. God, Republicans are so stupid. Which is cooler, B-2 or an SR-71? I mean, I feel like the SR-71 has a lot of cool stuff about it, but I feel like the B-2, like, think about it. I feel like you're trying to do a lot of contrary things in one ship. Like, you want to have a ship that can carry massive ordnance, right? Okay, well, that's going to be a big, you're thinking what, like, is it the B-52, am I thinking? Yeah, that's like, okay, well, we want a ship that can carry big bombs, so it's got to be a big ship, right? So then it can't be fast, it can't be stealth, right, but the B-2 does like all of these things, right? It can conduct itself in stealth, it can do, I don't know how maneuverable it is, but it and it carries like huge bombs. It just like it's a cool ship. It's a super cool ship. I don't know how maneuverable the B-2 is, but I was reading a lot of random shit about planes. There's a name for this type of aircraft. Oh, is it a flying wing? Like where you have the, there's not like a fuselage, is that what it's called? Because it's all just like part of the, God, this is such a cool airplane. I'm just reading a lot of random shit about these things. This is such a sick plane. It's so cool. And it doesn't even look real. Like it doesn't look like something that should be flying. Like it looks like it's out of bad sci-fi. Like why would you make the edges straight? Aren't they supposed to be curved? I don't know, that's what I thought, but apparently not. Is Iran's capacity to build a nuke crippled for another couple of years? If you're going to speak about a nuclear weapons program, you should speak with some level of specificity. Building a nuclear weapon, I think, is arbitrarily easy at this point. The biggest difficulty is enriching uranium such that it can be used in a nuclear bomb. So I think building a nuclear bomb, I think any country with, especially with ICBMs, can build a nuclear bomb. But the question is, can Iran enrich uranium up to a point to where it's ready to be used in a nuclear weapon? And my guess would be that right now, the capability of them to do that has been significantly degraded. Now, I don't know if their stockpile of 60% uranium has been blown up or not, but why uranium and not plutonium? It would come down to the atomic properties of either element. I don't know. I don't remember when we were watching the video. Is plutonium used for initial nuclear reactions, or was that just used to accelerate other? I don't remember. Good video on the B-2s.
In the dead of night, a whisper slices through the air.
Why didn't we do to Iran what to North? Why didn't we do what we did to Iran to North Korea before they got nukes? I think North Korea was very closely aligned with China. And so we don't usually with, that would be like right in China's backyard.
Unseen and unheard, it penetrates the world's most sophisticated air defenses. This Phantom can deliver a payload powerful enough to alter the course of history.
How lucky is the world that it's so hard to enrich uranium? True. There's some lucky things. Yeah, imagine if nuclear reactions were way easier. Not good.
That remain as elusive as a shadow. At $2 billion per aircraft, it's the most expensive plane ever built. How does a 50-meter wide giant become invisible to radar? And why does it look like it flew straight out of a sci-fi movie? Hey, I'm your host Regis, and today we're diving into the secrets of the B-2 Spirit, the stealth bomber that revolutionized aerial warfare. From its Cold War origins to its cutting-edge technology.
See a WIC panel like in a so far. Yeah, listen, I've permanently ejected and I'll ban all the embeds. Okay, that whole sphere is just, it's too much weird socialist whatever cringe shit. Okay, we're moving past all of that. We're in a new tomorrow. Okay, all of it is just too weird. It's too weird. I can't understand it. So the whole Lycan, Pisco, all of that, we're moving on. Okay, we're just moving to the next era. All right.
We'll discover how this ghostly giant changed the game of global security. The year is 1975. The Cold War is at its frostiest, and the game of nuclear chess between the United States and the Soviet Union is reaching a critical point. Picture this: squadrons of massive B-52 bombers poised on alert at strategic air bases, each loaded with enough firepower to level entire cities. These massive aircraft were constantly kept flying or on high alert, ready to get airborne at a moment's notice, forming a critical part of America's nuclear deterrent. Flying out of Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas, the routes varied by year, but in general, there were routes that went to positions over the Canadian Arctic, Alaska, Greenland, and the Mediterranean Sea. But there's a problem. The Soviets have been busy. They've developed air defense systems so advanced that they could swat these flying fortresses out of the sky like flies. As one Air Force general put it, sending B-52s into Soviet airspace would be like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest while wearing a bright red target on your chest. So what do you do when your unstoppable force is starting to encounter an immovable object in the form of an even stronger defense? You change the game entirely. Enter the Advanced Technology Bomber Program, or ATB. The goal? Create a bomber that could slip past Soviet defenses like a ghost, delivering its payload before the enemy even knew it was there. It was kind of like trying to build an invisible elephant, a seemingly impossible task that had engineers scratching their heads. But this wasn't just about maintaining military superiority. It was about preserving the delicate balance of power that kept the Cold War from turning hot. You see, the whole concept of nuclear deterrence relied on the ability to strike back if attacked. If the Soviets thought that they could neutralize America's bomber fleet, the risk of a first strike increased dramatically. Now, little did anyone know, the solution to this problem had actually already been dreamed up decades earlier, and then quite literally smashed to pieces. Let's rewind the clock back to 1946. World War II has just ended, and while most of America is focused on building cars and suburban houses, one man is obsessed with a different kind of construction. His name, Jack Northrop, and his vision, the flying wing. Imagine an aircraft that's all wing. No fuselage, no tail, just one sweeping aerodynamic shape. It looked like something out of a sci-fi magazine, but Northrop was convinced it was the future of aviation. In 1947, Northrop's dream actually took flight in the form of the YB-49, a massive jet-powered flying wing with a 50-meter wingspan. It was very ahead of its time, but there was a problem. Without modern computers to help control it, the YB-49 was about as stable as a unicycle on a tightrope. The Air Force wasn't impressed, and in a decision that must have felt like a gut punch to Northrop, they ordered all YB-49s destroyed in 1949. Yeah, you heard me right. These flying wings were all destroyed, which gives you an insight into the aggressive research and development approach of the United States Department of Defense. But here's where things get interesting. Let's fast forward again back to 1978. The Air Force initiates the ATB program, looking for a bomber that can penetrate the most heavily defended airspace undetected. And who wins the contract? Well, none other than Northrop Corporation. It's like the flying wing rose from the ashes, ready for its second act. This time, armed with decades of technological advancement and a blank check from the US government, Northrop was poised to turn the impossible into reality. But how exactly do you make a 100-ton aircraft with a wingspan that's as wide as a football field invisible to radar? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Okay, first things first, we have got to talk about that iconic shape. The B-2 looks like it flew straight out of a sci-fi movie, and there's good reason for that. The B-2s are Jack Northrop's flying wing concept from the 1940s cranked up to 11. But this isn't just about looking cool. Every curve and angle of this bad boy serves a purpose. You see, unlike conventional aircraft with their distinct fuselages and tails, the B-2 is essentially one continuous wing. This shape does two crucial things. It gives the B-2 an incredibly...
Justin would legit rather watch a YouTube video about a jet than go see them flying by his house all day during the air show. Because I have to go outside for that. Am I getting sunburned from my monitor screen?
low radar cross-section, that's stealth speak for really hard to spot, and it also provides excellent aerodynamic efficiency, crucial for an aircraft designed to fly halfway around the world without breaking a sweat. Now, let's zoom in on the B-2's materials that give it its stealth capabilities. The real magic happens on the surface. The B-2 skin is coated with top-secret radar-absorbent materials. These aren't your average paints. They're specially designed to absorb radar energy rather than reflect it. It's kind of like the B-2 is wearing an invisibility cloak, a cloak made of materials so classified, I'd probably disappear if I told you about them. As you can see in this radar cross-section diagram, even the way the B-2 is built contributes to its stealthiness. The aircraft's skin is made up of large, smooth panels with minimal seams, because every edge, every corner, every tiny imperfection could potentially reflect radar waves. Think of the B-2's exterior like a sleek sports car. No rough edges, no sharp corners. Just, if that sports car was the size of a warehouse and tried really hard to avoid getting spotted by speeding cameras. Anyway, here's where things get really tricky. As we already mentioned, flying wings are not very stable. Without a tail, they tend to yaw and pitch, which basically means they just kind of tilt to the sides. To solve this, the B-2 used a fly-by-wire system, which is so advanced that it's the literal definition of top secret. This computer-controlled system makes constant adjustments to the aircraft's control surfaces, keeping it stable in flight. It's so sophisticated that the B-2 can pull off maneuvers that would be unthinkable for a plane this size. Imagine you're a radar operator and suddenly your screen just goes blank. Well, that's the spirit in action. The B-2 packs 4 General Electric F-118 GE100 turbofans.
Fuck, I'm also gonna be honest, until like 2 weeks ago, in my mind, the B-2 is like the size of a fighter plane. Like, I thought these were much, much, much smaller planes. I don't know, I've never thought about it before.
But good luck spotting them.
These are crazy, awesome planes, guys.
Are buried deep within the aircraft's body, with the intakes cleverly hidden on top of the wing. Why? Well, because nothing says, hey, I'm a plane, quite like a radar beam bouncing off a shiny engine fan blade. The exhaust is cooled and spread over a wide area at the rear of the aircraft, minimizing its infrared signature. It's kind of like the B-2 is tiptoeing through the sky, trying not to leave any footprints. The airframe is made primarily of carbon graphite composite materials, lightweight, strong, and about as radar transparent as you can get without being physically invisible. The aircraft was built in separate sections, then assembled with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. One tiny misalignment and boom, suddenly you've got a multi-billion-dollar radar reflector instead of a stealth bomber. When the B-2 was finally unveiled on November 22nd, 1988, it was kind of like showing the world a glimpse of the future. As it rolled out of its hangar, you could almost hear the collective jaws hitting the floor. This was an aircraft that looked like it had been beamed down from a sci-fi movie, ready to rewrite the rules of aerial warfare. The technological array packed into this flying wonder was nothing short of awe-inspiring. With over 130 onboard computers controlling every element of the aircraft, the B-2 wasn't just ahead of its time, it was in a time of its own. It combined a variety of techniques to achieve its near invisibility. It shape-confused radar, its materials absorbed radar energy, and its electronic countermeasures jammed enemy detection systems. This graph dramatically illustrates the B-2's radar signature compared to conventional aircraft.
Holy shit. The B-2 is 69 feet long. Holy fucking Limeo. Limeo.
Result, an aircraft with a radar cross-section 1,000 times smaller than that of the B-52, which on a radar screen would be kind of like trying to spot a pigeon. When the B-2 made its maiden flight on July 17, 1989, it proved that all this fancy engineering wasn't just theoretical. This thing could fly, and fly well. It was the culmination of decades of work, from Jack Northrop's early experiments to the cutting-edge technology of the 1980s. The B-2 Spirit wasn't just a new aircraft. It was a revolution in aviation, a flying testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Now, let's talk about the capabilities and performance that this beast has, because in addition to stealth, the B-2 Spirit is a highly capable asset, made to carry out missions deep in hostile territory. First up, let's talk everyone's favorite, payload. It can carry 20 tons of bombs. Basically, imagine squeezing 10 sedans into its belly. And we're not talking about just conventional bombs here. The B-2 is part of America's nuclear...
Okay, I feel like I see different numbers. I learned that a ton was 2,000 pounds. Is there a difference between, like, is a metric ton 1,000 pounds, and then, like, normal tons are 2,000 pounds, or are there different other tons, or... So I don't know much about Iran, but when I looked into their pro-democracy party, it's headed by Reza Pahlavi, who's former Iranian royalty, but is a U.S. citizen, lived in Maryland/Connecticut. I went to college here. Does Iran view this as a U.S. plant, and does it add to issues? No clue. Haven't gotten up to that point yet.
Your deterrent strategy. For your everyday non-apocalyptic missions, the B-2 can carry up to 80 500-pound GPS-guided bombs. That's precision strikes on 80 different targets in one single sortie. Or if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, let's say, it can deploy specialized weapons like the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. At 15 tons, this bunker buster...
Don't they give the pilot of this thing speed so he's fully alert and operating at higher efficiency? My understanding is right now research shows that if you are... Assuming you have like an ordinary brain, like a normal mind, and you take amphetamines, I don't know if that actually makes you more productive. It might make you more hyper or feel like you're more alert. Like maybe if you're tired, it would help, but I don't know if like if you got in sleep and you wake up, that like taking some kind of amphetamine would actually increase your performance. I feel like this is a super easy question to answer. If it did, then I feel like Formula One drivers or NASCAR drivers would be using it. So that would be the question I would ask, right? Like, if you ever want to know if a drug works, then you look at like the military or sports, and you'll find out very quickly if it works, and they're probably abusing it, right?
Deploy specialized weapons like the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator.
But for a project like this, I would be shocked if they weren't sleeping during the flight. If this was a 36-hour mission, I don't know why they wouldn't like take shifts sleeping or something. It would seem crazy to run a sortie like this where your pilots are at least 36 hours sleep deprived. That seems really stupid to me.
Ambitious, let's say, it could deploy
There's a bedroom. Okay, it has beds. All right.
Specialized weapons like the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. At 15 tons, this bunker buster is basically a small building that you can drop on other buildings. Kind of like the Air Force's way of saying, we don't care how deep you dig, we can still reach you. But here's where things get really impressive. The B-2's range. On a single tank of gas, this thing can fly over 11,000 kilometers. That's
Damn.
like flying from New York to Moscow and still having enough fuel left to circle the Red Square a few times.
Damn.
And with aerial refueling, its range is basically anywhere on Earth. It's the kind of plane that can show up uninvited to a party halfway around the world and still leave before anyone notices. Now, you might be thinking, sure, it can go far, but is it fast? Well, at high altitudes, the B-2 cruises at about 901 kilometers per hour. That's not breaking any speed records, but remember, this is a bomber, not a fighter jet. It's more about the slow, silent approach than the flashy flyby. Plus, it can reach altitudes of 50,000 feet. That's almost higher than Mount Everest times 2. It's operated by a crew of 2, a pilot and a mission commander. And these folks aren't just flying. They're managing a suite of state-of-the-art avionics and mission planning systems that are so advanced they're in a league of their own. And get this, if GPS goes down, the B-2 can navigate using the stars. The B-2 can operate in all weather conditions, day or
Well, can't everybody navigate using the stars? Or do they mean the computers?
Mars. The B-2 can operate in all weather conditions, day or night. Its advanced radar system, which has been very controversial, allows it to perform terrain forming and terrain avoidance maneuvers automatically. But how much does it cost to have this kind of bomber in your fleet? Each B-2 costs about $2 billion per aircraft, which is more than the entire GDP of some small countries. That's billion with a B. To put that in perspective, you could buy about 5,000 average American homes for the price of one B-2. So why is it so expensive? Well, it's a
Well, in today's dollars, it's only 1,000 homes. I get it. Oh, inflation.
perfect storm of costly factors. For starters, the technology is cutting edge. We're talking materials and systems that probably won't be declassified until our grandkids are old enough to vote.
I believe you need extensive special training to fly the B-2. The pilots are basically superhuman, the best of the best for pilots. Let's be real. Listen, it's a cool plane, but at the end of the day, they're just bombing, okay? They're just bombers, all right? You can put the bomb over the target, you push the button, and then you fly back, all right? Let's be real now. They're not dogfighting out there like they would in Top Gun, all right?
Then there's the exclusivity factor. Only 21 have ever
Is that the microwave in the background? What is the noise? I've wasted so much time, I think, in the past year gooning off stream that I've decided now to just stream on top of a Sibian. So I'm constantly coming and streaming at the same time. That's what you hear going off right now. I'll get the silent version in the future.
been built. Maintenance is another budget buster. That radar-absorbing skin, well, it needs to be reapplied regularly. And let's not forget about the constant upgrades. The B-2 of today is far more advanced than the one that rolled out back in the 80s. It somehow managed to age forward, getting younger and more capable. But is it worth it? Well, that's the multi-billion-dollar question. Supporters argue that the B-2's unique capabilities justify the cost. After all, how do you put a price tag on the ability to strike anywhere on the Earth without being detected? But even stealth aircraft can't hide from aging. The Air Force is already eyeing its replacement, the B-21 Raider, the next evolution of stealth technology. The B-21 Raider is to play multiple roles as an intercontinental strategic bomber and intelligence collection hub, hooked up to a larger network to make it the first 6th-generation aircraft of its kind. It's meant to be smaller, more affordable, and easier to maintain than its predecessor, which would allow manufacturing a much larger fleet. So, what do you think about the B-2 bomber? And would you like to learn more about the new advanced B-21 Raider? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you love learning about projects that push the limits of technology, make sure that you're subscribed to Megabuilds. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Wow, cool.
I've
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say,
The biggest load.
okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not
What do you think they're gonna do? What do you think is the point of giving somebody 12 hours? What do you think's gonna happen, dumbass?
happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land, I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have a response to Iran?
Wait a second. It's Biden. Fuck. What was the quote, supposedly, the behind the scenes quote from Biden? Where he was like, was it about Netanyahu and Abbas? Did he say these guys are both or the two biggest assholes? Was that it? Two of the biggest. Biden could be much more indignant and profane in private than he appeared in public. One Saturday afternoon during his first year as president, Biden had called a friend from the Oval Office. I've spent almost 5 hours going back and forth on the phone with two of the biggest fucking assholes in the world, Bibi Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas, he said, referring to the Prime Minister of Israel and the Palestinian leader. Two of the biggest fucking assholes in the world. They've been fighting so long that they don't know what the they're doing. Destiny, isn't that your take? But unhinged because Trump literally joined the fight a few days ago. Yeah, Trump has no idea what's going on. I mean, like, they know what they're doing. I mean, like, I'll say that on like a macro level, like, oh, these guys are retards. But I mean, like, they're both doing what they should be doing theoretically. The issue is that I feel like you have to view, when you're the United States, you are the world government, okay? And everybody else is like capitalism. So your job is to make sure that the incentives line up correctly for other people to act right. That's what you really have to do. I think that's how you have to view politics globally from a US standpoint. Because Iran, remember, I've said this over and over again, Iran is like, their position is becoming increasingly desperate. So of course they're going to get increasingly desperate. So it makes sense for them that like, well, we need nuclear weapons or something because holy shit, like everybody else around us has fallen and we might be next. And if you're Israel, you're like, oh, fuck it, we got the huge advantage. We're going to press this as hard as possible. Both sides are incentivized to fight. It's your job, your mission as the United States, ideally, to come in and say, okay, hey, hold on, guys. This is what we're going to add to the table as a consequence for your action. So hopefully you're not incentivized to do it. That's what we did with Egypt and Israel, right? We're like, hey, listen, if you guys stop fighting each other, we'll give you both a ton of money. And they were like, you know what? That sounds better than fighting each other. So let's do it. And how Egypt and Israel are friends. That's kind of the, yeah. Since the U.S.'s primary objective in the Middle East is keeping things in balance, would it be possible for the U.S. to start to some extent backing Iran if Israel gets too powerful? What do you mean keep things in balance? I think we just want to represent our interests. I don't know what, it's not like the force. Jesus Christ. Who runs this guy's account? Real Donald Trump declared so much war on me today, it should require an act of Congress. Hashtag sassy with Messi. Dude, this guy schizo is so fucking hard. Holy shit. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky is not MAGA, even though he likes to say he is. Actually, MAGA doesn't want him, doesn't know him, and doesn't respect him. He is a negative force who almost always votes no matter how good something may be. He's a simple-minded grandstander who thinks it's good policy for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon, while at the same time yelling death to America at every chance they get. Iran has killed and maimed thousands of Americans, and even took over the American embassy in Tehran under the Carter administration. We had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of their hands, and they would use it if they could. But as usual, despite all of the praise and accolades received, this lightweight congressman is against what was so brilliantly achieved last night in Iran. That's these weak, ineffective votes. No one virtually everything he put before him. He's like Rand Paul Jr. No matter how good something may be, he's disrespectful of great military. Like, Jesus, bro. This guy's like fucking live journaling his way through the fucking presidency. What the fuck? Have you ever noticed how many times he posts truths? It's like legit 20 plus times a day. Take a look. Yeah, he just likes the attention, bro. I wonder if other VPs had as much excitement as I do. Representative Thomas Massey. Ask Mike Pence about his last month. Damn. The U.S. military strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months, according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment that was described by 4 people who were briefed on it. I wonder what that means. That's a very vague statement. The assessment, which has not been previously reported, was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Pentagon's intelligence arm, and is based on the battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. Central Command in the aftermath of U.S. strikes, one of the sources say. Two of the people familiar with the assessment said Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was not destroyed. One of the people said the centrifuges are largely intact. The DIA assessment is that the U.S. set them back maybe a few months tops. The White House acknowledged the existence of the assessment, so they disagreed with it. The impact to all 3 sites, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, was largely restricted to above-ground structures, which were severely damaged, sources said. That includes the site's power infrastructure and some of the above-ground facilities used to turn uranium into metal for bomb making. CNN. We've got a few more months. Don't worry, Trump will get a plan. Trump will get something worked out, guys. watch the CNN broadcast on it.
This is CNN
Yeah, we got 2 weeks.
breaking news.
We have major breaking news into CNN. 3 sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back a few months.
That's right. So this is an assessment that actually is out from the Defense Intelligence Agency. That is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it was based on a battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. CENTCOM after the strikes, according to one of the sources. Let's go to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand, who has this exclusive new reporting. This is to that question that has been asked about how much damage has been done. This is a real question. It's also a political question that has been to something that Donald Trump has been sort of dealing with here recently. What are you learning, Natasha?
What was that dichotomy? This is a real question, but it's also a political question. I mean, okay.
Yeah, look, Brianna, this is the first assessment that we are getting that the U.S. intelligence community has found about the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser."
Remember, when the Trump admin talks, as in the White House people, all of that is a lie. It's all, well, I shouldn't say it's a lie. It's all for politics. They don't, the White House doesn't know anything. It's the White House. They don't have researchers, or they don't have people to go out and gather this information or to do these assessments. That's what the Department of Defense is for. So when they are coming out here and contradicting it, like the question should be based on what reporting, and they'll probably just say things I saw on Twitter or X, like why the fuck would you know? The White House is not going to have more information about this than the DoD, but they will lie openly about everything, no matter what, regardless.
In the intelligence community, the leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration. Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense.
So I can tell the bombing was successful enough. If they stalled the nuclear program by several months, I was to some degree successful. I don't know. I have no idea how much damage reasonably could be done if you could obliterate everything, or what they were trying to do. I don't know if there's some assessment that blowing up a uranium stockpile is good or not good. I have no idea. I don't know what I don't know what the long-term strategy is, but I don't think Trump has a long-term strategy, so who the f*** knows?
Community about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities.
Is that an acceptable risk-reward mission to you? So people that say shit like this are always people who just think that we should never be bombing Iran no matter what, and they're okay with Iran having a nuclear weapon. I'm not okay with Iran having a nuclear weapon. I think that any stalling of them getting a nuclear weapon, including bombing Iran, I think that's almost always going to be good. Ideally, you'd want to delay it more, but there's no world where you ask a retarded fucking question like that, like, well, is that worth the risk? And blah. Yeah, I would say yeah. Anything that delays it, I think is worth it, basically, yeah. Short of like nuking the country or like mass civilian slaughter or whatever. Yes.
It's far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium,
On 6/14, I asked you if you had to put $10,000 on it, would Israel and Iran enter into a formal war in the next 30 days? And you said no, absolutely not. Do you think we're any closer to that after the bombing of this info? No, I don't. I don't know what a formal war would ever. I don't think Israel has the manpower for it. I don't think it is the desire for a formal war. All of it is going to be jockeying around this nuclear reactor shit. Like, this is what all of this is going to be about, basically.
That everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated, and Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement. And he said that, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble.
We should be able to trust him as the Secretary of Defense, but again, as cabinet picks, it's unfortunate, but I don't think I would trust anything, because the cabinet is constantly being contradicted by the White House as well. Because when Tulsi Gabbard came out and made statements about the progress of Iran's nuclear program, Trump said that she was lying or wrong. So I don't know, like, what we can even try. It sucks because, especially, I've spent so much time as like an institutions defender, and now because of the way that the Trump admin operates, I don't know if it's just hard, it's impossible to trust anything because Trump is an actual fucking dictator. From your understanding, what makes uranium pass into supercritical or whatever, like obviously when the nuke explodes, it's not making a higher percentage 235. Is it literally just if you have 20 pounds or 90% U-235, you're fine, but if you smash 5 more pounds into the 20, it goes boom? I'm trying to think of an analogy, and I don't think I can think of any analogy. I don't know what would work like this. You know what? I did think of an analogy. I feel like nuclear reactions are like the it's like the R naught of a viral infection. Like, I think that's like when it's less than 1, that means that for every person that gets infected, you expect there to be less than 1 other person that gets infected. Having a more enriched uranium is like increasing the infectiousness of a disease past a certain level. And when a bomb is supercritical, or critical or supercritical, the R naught is just going past 1. That means that when you break apart atoms and the neutrons are released, there's so much of a certain type of uranium inside of this huge block of uranium that you expect there to be more and more and more released based on each atomic reaction, I guess you would say, right? But for ordinary uranium, when the R naught is less than 1, if you blow an atom up or if you split it, enough neutrons are going to be absorbed by the surrounding stuff that it's not going to go critical and it's all not going to blow. It's just the neutrons are going to be absorbed by other things. They're just going to chill, I guess. I don't know. There you go, close enough.
In Iran, so anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president.
I don't think Israel would have agreed to a ceasefire if they weren't satisfied with the result. Ceasefires don't really mean fuck all. A ceasefire is just like, we'll stop shooting at you for now, but they don't. I mean, this is a fucking ceasefire.
Who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months. Boris Brianna.
Natasha Bertrand, please stand by.
Is there any reason to bomb the uranium rather than have them give it up voluntarily if the U.S. abides by the terms of the JCPOA, which is something Iran has offered to do? I don't know if Iran has offered to do that. I don't think the U.S. is willing to abide by the terms of the JCPOA, given that our current president is the one that pulled us out of it. If Iran would enrich all 60% uranium they have now to 90%, they would barely have 2 bombs, each with 25 to 30 pounds of uranium. It would not destroy Tel Aviv, and the amount of dust would not exceed 100K. They could easily recover in a decade or so. I can't tell how much that post is a troll post. First of all, they had like 400 kilograms of 60% uranium enriched. And if it got up to 90%, that would still be what, like 300 kilograms of uranium? Is 238 the one that blows up? No, 235 is the blow up one. I'm pretty sure that's enough to make like a dozen bombs. I don't think how much do you need for a current nuclear weapon? It's a lower number, isn't it? Like 20 kilograms can make a bomb. If the bunker busters are not enough, are there even any other options to destroy those nuclear facilities? I mean, can't you just keep using bunker busters? Or I guess you would bomb the surrounding infrastructure. People are citing that line from the IAEA report of Iran is not close to making a nuclear weapon. What's up with that? People are just playing a lot of games with what's being said with certain words based on the agenda that they're trying to push. So making a nuclear weapon is not the same thing as enriching uranium. So you can say that they're still enriching uranium, but they're not any closer to making a nuclear weapon. But the nuclear weapon making process, they might be treating it differently than enriching the uranium. Like making a nuclear weapon, I think is not that difficult. The really difficult part is getting the level of enrichment you need in uranium to use in the nuclear weapon. So you can be on the way to enriching uranium to a weapons worthy level without being closer to making a nuclear bomb. But like if you have the weapons grade uranium, then making the nuclear bomb is not that difficult. What you're describing is increased concentration U-235, but if you combine 90% U-235 with 90% U-235, you get a lump of 90% U-235. And it's obviously not just that. You slam some 100% U-235 into it because then why wouldn't the 100% U-235 explode? So I don't think the RO, wait, what? I don't think you can have 100% U-235. I think that would just, is that supercritical? I think that would just explode, right? If it was near each other. I don't remember. I don't remember enough. Or it might decay quickly as well, yeah, because there's some natural decay. I don't know how long 235 is stable for, or what the half-life is. I figured it was a look, huh? If you're Iran's point of view, why wouldn't you enrich uranium after Trump pulled out of the deal for no reason? How many times do I have to answer that? Can chat answer the question for Morbler? I don't know. I feel like I've answered the same question like 400 times. I can't tell if these are like retarded gotchas or if it's people legitimately retarded or people just haven't heard me say this like a million times. Affair. He understands why Iran wants a nuke. Iran should do it and Destiny knows it. Thank you. Okay. They are being rational. Okay, thank you. Jesus. I've said this a million times. From Iran's point of view, it makes sense why they're going after nuclear weapons. I don't know how many more times I have to repeat that or if it's just... What is the incentive now for Iran to stay in/comply with the IAEA and not just move all of their nuclear program completely into the shadows since they know the US bombed them anyways? There is no incentive for them to comply with anything. That's why they were going for a nuclear bomb. I don't know how that is to understand. There's no incentive for them to comply with anything. That's why they're going for nukes. Half-life uranium-235 is approximately 703.8 million years. Damn. Okay, well, half-life here doesn't matter then. Is the threat of fallout from a nuke over-exaggerated? I mean, it depends on how much shit is getting nuked. I think the fallout scare from a nuclear bomb, well, radioactive fallout, I don't think is generally a concern. Radioactive fallout, I think, is also not supposed to happen because you don't want there to be like radioactive material falling out. You want it to explode, I think, right? The nuclear winter question and the pollution and everything, I think, has to do with how much of that stuff is kicked up when you're blowing up massive amounts of cities and everything. But they were letting the IAEA in to inspect their sites. Pretty sure they weren't since 2021. Wasn't that the IAEA's report? Didn't they specifically and explicitly say that that they hadn't been allowed in since like 2021? What's Iran's long-term goal here? If they know that Israel/US will just bomb them, if they try making the nuke, and Iran has to do cuck optics attack after each other as well, are they just expecting that Israel/the US will ignore the nuke program at some point, or I don't know. The problem is I don't know what. It's funny for all of the retarded talk of Trump talking about Russia and them needing an off ramp. It seems I don't know what the off ramp is for Iran. I don't know what we offer them as an off ramp for Iran. It seems like we have no desire to. I have no idea. Yeah, but it's hard. Remember, it's difficult because Trump is retarded. And that's not just a meme. Like, Bush is retarded. Bush is not retarded. U.S. presidents are typically not retards. They're usually Ivy League educated. They usually have a mind for politics. They usually have some, like, good political upbringing around them. Like, generally, people that make it to the office of president have some kind of long-term vision, whether you agree or disagree with it. They have some kind of long-term vision and current and historical understanding of a particular region. Trump has none. So for all the predictions, everything I'm making, maybe tomorrow we go to war with Somalia. Who the knows, because Trump hears some bullshit about it and decides to do it. Like, it's harder to predict. Like, Trump, it just sucks at everything. He just sucks at everything. He's just woefully underqualified for every part of the job, unfortunately. Where do we go diplomatically from here? Because it seems both parties are somewhat just in their actions. Yeah, welcome to foreign politics. The U.S. can't go anywhere diplomatically. We don't have a diplomatic leader. We don't have anything right now. Even our State Department is cucked. Rubio could do it. Rubio has the mind for politics. Rubio has the understanding for doing it. But Rubio is a cuck to Donald Trump. He has no spine and no backbone. He's a shadow of a man who is hollowed out his entire existence to make room for MAGA to possess his body. So I don't know. There is no diplomacy, or there is no reasonable action or guidance that the United States can give to anybody. The question that you have to ask to figure out U.S. foreign policy is what best serves Donald Trump's narcissism. And that's the path that we're going to take every single time. That's it. That's all we have now. So.